We're going to move now. Call on Allison Stark, our Senior Director of Industry Development for Agribusiness, and RJ Ball, the Senior Director of Industry Development and Foreign Trade, to present the spotlight presentation on ESD's Industry Development of Agriculture.
Thank you so much, Chairman Law and with the directors. Thank you for having me today. My name is Allison Stark. I'm a Senior Director in the Strategic Business Division, overseeing business attraction and retention in the agribusiness industry. I'm joined here by my colleague, a fellow Senior Director, RJ Ball, who oversaw one of the super impactful projects that we're going to discuss later in the presentation. RJ, do you want to do a quick intro?
Sure. Thank you, Chairman. Thank you, directors and members, for having us today and giving us the opportunity to talk about some of our success. We're really proud of the projects that we're presenting today, and thank you, Allison, for including me in this. Sometimes in strategic business, we cross each other's industry sectors for various reasons, and this was a bit of a strange project, but I'm very happy to present it.
Perfect. Thank you, RJ. So let me share my slides here. Okay, you guys should be able to see my slides at this point.
Yep. Yes, we do.
Okay, perfect. So I feel pretty fortunate to work in the agribusiness industry at this point. One, because it's just a cool industry, right? It's cool to see where your food comes from and to see the process from start to finish. But also because the agribusiness industry is definitely growing in New York, and we've really made a name for ourselves as one of the more business-friendly, up-and-coming states for food manufacturing. Oop, give me 1 second. I'm going to switch slides, hopefully. There we go. Okay. So New York State is home to over 630,000 dairy cows. And this has certainly driven us into the top 5 states nationally for milk production. And so there's no surprise there that dairy processing has specifically seen a rise in the last several years. We've maintained the #1 state in the nation for yogurt production, and I suspect that's not going to change anytime soon, especially with the recent $1 billion investment that Chobani has made in Rome, New York, which I will discuss in a couple slides. Because that's going to be one of our bigger projects. Sorry, lights went off. One of our bigger projects that we've done in the agribusiness industry as of recently. With our strong farming community, partnerships with educational institutions like Cornell, and our resilient transportation infrastructure, New York State continues to come out on top for attraction and retention projects. So, what tools do we have to set ourselves up for success when interacting with companies? As you guys know, we have many programs across the agency that prioritize agribusiness. REDC and Excelsior Jobs, those are revolving programs. We're fortunate enough to have these programs funded every year, and they're always have access to them. But we often have small programs like the Craft Beverage Microgrants with one-time funding allocations that are created specifically during a time of need. I work most often with the Excelsior Jobs tax credit, which only needs a commissioner approval to award. So although you guys may be familiar with some of the projects that I will be discussing in a few slides here, they wouldn't have come to the board, at least not the Excelsior portion of the award. But with that being said, I do occasionally need to utilize ESD grants for projects with co-ops. So a lot of times in the dairy industry, we have many farms that come together and decide they're going to process their raw milk together into a product. we do quite a bit of work with these co-ops, and we've found that Excelsior tax credits are sometimes difficult for them to utilize because of the unique structure of the organization. But we found that grants can be applied directly to the co-op without having to flow through all the owners first. So you guys probably have seen at least a couple farm co-ops come through for board approval, and if not, I've done a couple in the past year, so you will be seeing them soon. So let's move on. We can move on to our what I consider kind of the fun part of our presentation. All of our project highlights and all of the some of the projects that we've really worked on recently that are going to make an impact in the ag industry. So the first is going to be Fairlife. Fairlife is a dairy beverage company that uses state-of-the-art ultrafiltration technology that originated right here in New York, actually at Cornell University, over a decade ago. So unique to Fairlife, the ultrafiltration process gives the milk a longer shelf life while giving it more protein and more calcium and less sugar. And this is significantly different than normal milk that you would buy in the marketplace. They're praised for all of their delicious milk products, as well as their core power line, which consists of individually packed protein dairy beverages. If you guys haven't tried them, they're awesome. They're consistently in my fridge. They're delicious. They taste just like a milkshake. In 2020, Fairlife was acquired by the Coca-Cola Company, and they've been a great partner in this project. We worked really closely with them, and we continue to work with them as this project evolves. So Fairlife has several existing facilities in the United States, one in Arizona and two in Michigan. To expand their market, they're creating a 900,000 square foot processing facility in Webster, New York. The project will create 250 direct jobs, as well as more than 27,000 additional indirect jobs. And the company will be investing more than $650 million in the facility. Conservatively, Fairlife will require 5 million pounds of raw whole milk per day from local dairy farmers. That's 1.5 billion pounds of milk annually, which is going to have a tremendous impact on the New York State dairy farms. And that's going to kind of be a consistent thread through the projects here, right? These are going to not only have an impact on the processors, the companies that we're working on, but on the farms that are providing raw milk to make the products. This is going to be very impactful for them and allow them to grow. The company was also considering other states for the home of this new processing facility. This was an extremely competitive project. Some of these states even went as far as making their own programs to try to entice Fairlife to decide to locate in their state. So in light of this aggressive action taken by other states and the tremendous impact that this company would have on the New York State ag industry, we offered $21 million in Excelsior tax credits to support this project. So a little bit on the project status here, because they've come a really long way. This was a huge coordinated effort between not only the company, but ESD, Greater Rochester Enterprise, the town of Webster, Monroe County, among many, many others. There was a lot of people at the table day in and day out to make this project a reality. This all hands-on deck, coordinated approach really allowed for a streamlined and smooth process for breaking ground and construction. So Fairlife broke ground in April of 2024, and they are currently looking to be fully operational in the coming months. So as you can see from the image on the left, when they selected the site in Webster, it was a true greenfield. There was absolutely nothing there. And now they have major construction completed and are in the process of testing their equipment, and they anticipate being fully operational very soon. Okay, so Chobani. You guys are probably familiar with at least the Chobani brand. This is one of our very recent wins. Most of us have had a Chobani product at least once or twice, but some of us may have even had one of their products for breakfast today, or might have it in their lunchbox for later. They're a nationally known household name that's headquartered right here in New York, with locations in New York City and New Berlin. They have several locations outside of New York as well, including Idaho and most recently Michigan, after the acquisition of a coffee company. Their line of products include Greek yogurt, yogurt protein drinks, oat milk, and coffee creamer, and now coffee products. So they currently only produce their Greek yogurt cups in New York, and the rest of their value-added products, like the protein shakes, the yogurt flips that have like granola on one side of the cup and yogurt on the other, their coffee creamer, which is a huge product for them, those are all created in their Idaho facility. So as I'm sure you can imagine, this created a unique logistics problem. It was getting expensive to transport their products across the country, and they really wanted to have an East Coast facility. This would also not only alleviate the logistics issue, but it would allow room for the company to grow, which they are doing at a rapid pace. So they've decided to build a 1.4 million square foot manufacturing facility in Rome, New York. This is going to create at least 1,070 jobs, and it's over $1 billion in investment. Chobani is known to give back to the community, and they really want to be a good neighbor in all of the communities that they're located in. They truly take care of their employees with generous pay and benefits. And you know, this project is going to be incredibly impactful, not only to Mohawk Valley, but the entire, Northeast, truly. It's the biggest project that Mohawk Valley has seen in at least the last decade, and it's going to have a tremendous effect, not only on workforce, but on farmers in the region. Like Fairlife, Chobani will also require a large amount of milk from New York State farmers. Conservatively, at full production, Chobani will require 4 million pounds of raw milk a day from New York State dairy farmers. That's another 1.5 billion pounds of local milk annually, which will have a tremendous impact on the New York State dairy industry. So after an extensive site search, the company identified one site in New York, the Triangle site on the Griffith Airport in Rome, New York. This site was immediately attractive to the company, not only because of the geography. It's a fairly flat site, but this site was also awarded over $55 million from our Fast New York program. This was for site development purposes to make the site appealing for business attraction scenarios just like this. The funding truly made a difference to Chobani, and that made New York State a much more attractive option. So Chobani's currently working on permitting and site readiness, and hopes to be operational in the next year. Okay, so at this point, I'm going to hand it over to RJ, who was the lead on Wells Enterprises. RJ, just let me know when you want to switch the slide to the project status.
Sure, thanks. Yeah, so if you look at this slide, you'll see the project scope. 270 jobs are to be created, $425 million to be invested. We incentivize this project with $12 million of Excelsior and a $6 million grant. I'll just give you a quick little backstory on this plant and this project. It was kind of an interesting story and an interesting project to work on. So the ice cream manufacturing facility in Dunkirk, New York, has been a long endangered facility. I've been at ESD almost 14 years, and the possibility of this plant closing has lasted my entire career here until now. I think ownership changed probably 4 or 5 times in the time that I've been at ESD with this plant. The plant is dilapidated. There's a cold storage freezer for the ice cream, in the center of the campus, which was condemned probably 8 or 9 years ago. And since then, they've been contracting cold storage for the ice cream products 2 or 3 miles down the road, where they were paying something like $250,000 a month just to store ice cream products off-site before they got shipped. None of it was ever sustainable, and the companies that had previously owned the plant couldn't afford to keep it going, and hence the multiple times that it was sold. So Wells came along and bought a company that held the Dunkirk plant in its portfolio. And Wells really didn't even know all of the assets that they were buying when they purchased the company. They were most interested in the book of business that the company that they acquired had in New Jersey. And so Wells makes this acquisition and then starts to evaluate all of the assets that the company held, including the Dunkirk facility. We engaged with Wells immediately after they acquired. I think the previous company was maybe Fairbrook Farms or Fairfield Farms, something along that line. And we engaged with Wells immediately, and we talked to them about a plan to slowly start to shore up the campus and hopefully retain the jobs there. And we did provide an incentive at the time. It wasn't as ambitious as the project that we have here now. A couple years later, a friend of mine who was hired by Wells to evaluate sites that they had picked up in recent acquisitions and streamline some sites and consolidate some sites. This friend of mine called me and said, look, we've been friends for a while, and I know how much you care about Western New York and Dunkirk, and I wanted to tell you that we have to recommend that Wells closes the Dunkirk facility. They just don't have the money and the runway to invest in what this facility needs. And they're actually really devastated by it because they have said time and time again that the workforce in Dunkirk was the most productive and that they were working with the least amount of technology and facility to actually be as productive as they were. Wells is a Iowa-based company that's worth between $1.5 and $2 billion typically. And so he said, look, we're going to put this recommendation in about 2 weeks. If there's a Hail Mary here, we're open to it, but it doesn't look good. So I got off the phone and decided to say a Hail Mary and just wait for something to be handed to me from the heavens. Ironically, you can't even make this stuff up. The next day, I was on the phone with a friend of mine in Philadelphia who has nothing to do with any of this, who said, it seems like Ferrero Rocher is actually going to acquire Wells, huh? And I said, I hadn't heard that. And he said, I think they got the go-ahead today. So the difference between Wells being a $1.5–2 billion company and Ferrero Rocher is that Giovanni Ferrero of Ferrero Rocher is worth about $46 billion personally. So a little bit of a different outlook when you're owned by Ferrero Rocher. So I went back to my friend and I said, I said a Hail Mary. It turns out it worked. I'm a believer now. And if Ferrero Rocher is buying Wells, and if Ferrero Rocher is buying Wells, I think we should talk about different options of how this plant could actually be saved, because if it's that productive, Ferrero Rocher would be a company that has the money to do it. At this point, I just have to stop and thank Commissioner Knight for not only being patient and welcoming when I called her after midnight from Virginia, as they were having an early morning meeting in Denmark, and they called me and said, we had made an offer to Ferrero Rocher of incentives. And they said, this Giovanni Ferrero is like no one you've ever met. He's sitting there doing math on paper and figuring out exactly what makes sense for his investment in the Dunkirk facility versus the incentive that you guys have offered. We're not far off. We just need to adjust a little bit. And when I got the call from Europe, they said, look, we're going to be back in 2 days. We'll reconvene, and if there's something you guys can do on the incentive, and we'll tell you where the holes are, then maybe we can make this work. And I said, please don't leave Europe. Please don't leave that meeting without me responding to this first. And that's when I called Commissioner Knight in the middle of the night, and she was excited, which was awesome, because I was excited, but I was also nervous. I was a little nervous that she was going to say, don't ever call me this late again. In fact, don't ever call me again, and pack up your desk. So luckily that didn't happen, and now we have this great story to tell where 400 jobs were saved at this facility. And if you know anything about Dunkirk, New York, it's not just a line. If we lost those 400 jobs, that would be 400 people and 400 families that really had nowhere to turn for employment anytime soon. Certainly the option would have been to leave Dunkirk, New York, but for most of those families, that's also not really feasible. So it was a very proud moment for me, and hopefully for our agency as well, because we did save 400 jobs that really needed to be saved, and now the future is unlimited for this plant. And in fact, they have called us recently to start discussing further expansion beyond this, because they're definitely seeing the light at the end of the tunnel, and the workforce there just keeps proving it. Nelson, if you want to go to the next slide, I'll just briefly wrap it up. So, you can see from this slide, the bottom picture is the rendering of what this is all going to look like when it's done. If you saw this place in real life, this picture is absolutely stunning and a complete 180 from what was there. Wells did get their first certificate of occupancy, and has started some production in the first phase of what they have torn down and rebuilt in place. They're expecting their next one in the spring here, and that's when they expect to really ramp up hiring. They've already taken down the first $3 million tranche of the grant, because they've already spent, at this point, close to $200 million on the rebuild of the campus.
Awesome. Thank you, RJ. So before we wrap up, and I'll keep this short, I did just want to highlight ESD's great relation. Oh, I'm missing words on this slide. Well, we'll talk it. We do have a great relationship with New York State Agriculture and Markets. And I wanted to highlight this because you guys do approve some of the stuff that we work with them on. At least twice a year, you see a request for approval for market orders. These contracts support research and marketing for mostly the dairy and apple industry, but we utilize farmer funds that state holds. These contracts are extremely important to bring awareness to these industries, and they get kids involved in the industry, and research for things like making milk, getting more protein in milk, or the apple growing process. This is a joint effort between the two agencies, with Ag and Markets running the boards for the program, and ESD executes the contracts. We also sit on many of the working groups that New York State Agriculture and Markets administers. These working groups bring light to what's going on in the industry and help me and the agency be aware of challenges that could affect business attraction and retention efforts. This strong relationship between ESD and New York State Agriculture and Markets is extremely important to bring the best service to both existing and potential New York State companies. Okay, so there's my words. With that, we can take any questions.
Good. Well, thank you, Allison and RJ. Very informative. I don't know if this is a question for you or more Ags and Market, but in New York State, how many people are employed in the agricultural field, and what type of impact or part of our GDP is it? Because it sounds pretty significant.
Yeah, we have almost 100,000 are estimated to be employed in the agribusiness industry. Now, I believe that that's only ag manufacturing, so it's probably larger than that for the farms as well.
Oh, so your definite ag business maybe doesn't include just traditional farms that are growing fruit and grapes and nursery products and things like that?
Right, I'm pretty sure that number is just ag manufacturing.
Got it. No, very impressive. And Dunkirk, they have a prison up there too? Is that prison still operating, or did that close? Was that one of the prisons that closed? Because that would have really been a 1-2 punch to that community if you didn't succeed with Wells.
It hasn't closed recently. It's
No.
not since I've been here. It
Okay,
hasn't
so
been
it's still
one since
operating.
I think so, yeah.
Right. Very good.
Yeah, and we do have a couple of decent companies in Dunkirk. It's just this one is, that low to moderate income wage, low need for training job. There's a healthy refugee population that works in that facility.
Very good. What county is Dunkirk in?
Chautauqua.
Chautauqua. Oh, very. Way out there.
Yeah.
Right near the Chautauqua Institute.
Right.
Very good. Anybody else have any questions for Allison or RJ? Very informative, and RJ very funny and entertaining. We appreciate that. So keep on doing what you guys are doing, and thanks for the presentation.
Yeah, thank you very much. And as a lifelong Buffalonian, go Bills. One more. Go Bills.
Very good.
So much.
Thank you. We often talk about it, that, this agency touches so many different, in every sector, but it's amazing how many sectors we have.
Right.
And how important they all are.
Yep.
You're going to be doing high-tech semiconductor groundbreaking tomorrow, and here we're talking about yogurt and ice cream. And sometimes we're funding breweries and vineyards and apple orchards, and other times it's just traditional manufacturing and mixed use. Commercial, retail, and residential projects. It's really pretty cool that we touch every sector.